So good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome to Malik sir. This is the yet another session about the reading skills, about what you can, what could be helpful in the ACT as an ACT exam. So first of all, thank you, Malik sir, to be here, and you have been always amazing to give us the tips for the like different various tips about reading, how to grow the skill, and everything. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. This is the third session I'll be talking on, and the topic I first spoke on the types of passages and the types of questions. Then later on question answering techniques. Today I'm going to speak to you on effective reading for the SAT. Right. Today, what we'll do, the aim of this class or this session is identify effective reading strategies for the SAT. All right. The five kinds of passages have already been explained to you. And the only thing I want to tell you at the very start is that when you read the passages, see, when all passages are not equal. So when you, over a period of time, as you prepare for the SAT, you get comfortable with a certain kind of passage. Literature, history, science, etc. You get comfortable with a certain kind of passage. It is my recommendation that before I tell you anything about reading, whenever you read for the exam, you must read in the order in which you're comfortable. You like a paired passage first, you start with it. You hate a science passage, leave it right at the end. Right? This is something I thought I must tell you right in the beginning. The second thing I want to tell you is that whatever I tell you or whatever I do, the modus that we operate on is that you have to read with a purpose. There is no point reading, without any aim in mind. And the aim that I want to suggest to you all is that you read to get the maximum marks. See, the passages come for all kinds. They come on how crows are green and how birds fly in V formations, etc., etc., etc. But so that does not interest me and you. The only purpose of those five passages should be to get us to a good score, right? That's we will always learn. We have enough time in life to learn. So the passages must only be we must be concerned with the passages to get us to a good score. So I have to read with a purpose, right? If this is understood by all of you, then let me now first tell you, right? I will gradually lead you on to how I or we recommend that you read. See, when you read for school, how do you read? You pick up a book on social studies. You come to a chapter on the World War. Now, when you read the World War, what you do is you start reading from line 1 to line 11, and then you get back to line 1. Having got back to line 1, you again labor your way through up to line 11. You get past to line 11 to get past to line 20, and you are back at line 1. And you keep doing this drama up and down, right? And then you get past the first para, second para, third para. The fourth para talks about the Treaty of Versailles. So you never heard of Versailles, so it looks difficult. So you start reading that passage, paragraph 4 times, right? So what happens? What happens? When you read those 5 pages of the World War, at the end of your reading, right, which may take you anything between half an hour to 1 hour, you would have half of this chapter you would have learnt by heart. And the other half, you will learn it after you read it 2 or 3 more times. So your aim for the exam, that is 10 marks are devoted to the World War. You will get all 10, so you're happy. Right? Now that is the way you read in school. So any attempt to read this way in the SAT will leave you floundering. Because if you're going to take 5 or 6 or 7 minutes to read a passage, and if I have 35 passages, you're going to take 35 minutes to read the 5 passages. Should you take 35 minutes to read the 5 passages, you have 30 minutes to answer 52 questions. And sir, it is unlikely that you will be able to answer all the questions in those 30 minutes. So there has to be some kind of method, right? There must be some kind of method, sir, by which we should read the SAT passages. All right. And technically, if I was face to face with you, your next question should be, sir, then you tell us how to read. If you don't want me to read like in school, you tell me how to read. So you allow me to share a screen with you. Give me a second. when you look at this screen, now, sir, this screen is a passage from an SAT paper, right? It's a passage from an SAT paper. Now, this SAT paper, sir, this passage, right? Why am I showing you this passage? I want to show you the types of questions. I'm just taking you down to show you the types of questions, sir. So I show you the types of questions. The first question is that the author indicates that calorie reduction extends the life of a mammalian cell by some system, right? So I need to go and find the answer to this question, which I will go and find. I read the other questions, sir. And when I read question I know that I have to take the answer for question two from question three because the lines are referred to in question three. For doing question four, I have to read the second para. For question five, I have to read the 15th line. For question six, I have to read the fifth para. For questions seven and eight, I again have a set of lines which I must read to get the answer. And question 9, 10, and 11 pertain to this little graph on the side. All right, sir. Now, so if this is understood, sir, this is understood. There are 10 questions which have a reference to a line. Second para, third para, 15th line, 16th line, 18th line, etc., 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 the graph, etc. Now, what do I deduce? What do I infer from this when I read this? What kinds of deductions can I make as they affect reading? Right? All right. See, what the first thing is that no matter how thoroughly you read the passage, you read the passage and you mug it up in 5 minutes. So I can ask it. You're not in front of me, but I've asked it to n number of students. For every question, you have to go back into the text. And to answer the second question, you need to go third, fourth, fifth, up to the 11th question, you have to go back into the text and reread certain parts of the passage, right? So what happens? You are actually duplicating the whole thing. You're first reading for 5 minutes, and then you're going to go back and read again, and then in detail to get the answer. All right, sir. Now, so, the fast ones amongst you will suggest, therefore, so I will not read the passage. I will not read the passage. Now, that is also an extreme answer, sir. And I told you extreme answers are wrong, always. Right? Harsh answers are always wrong. This is also wrong. There is a need for you to read in a manner, right, that you get the main idea of the passage. Now, why should you get the main idea? Right? Let me explain this to you. Now, allow me to just scroll down the screen for a second. See, you come to a question like this. Look here. You come to a question, look at this passage, and he tells you, according to the author, according to the writer's description, citrus greening could best be described as. Right. Now, should you go on that extreme thing and not read the passage, you will go and check all the lines and then you'll come and make the answer. However, if I'm aware of the main idea, I know that citrus greening is a bimari. If you see here, right, look at right on top, look at right one, give me a second. I'll just show it to you. Right. Well, give me a second. Right. Look here, sir. Sorry. Look here, and you will see he tells you citrus greening, the plague that could wipe out Florida's $9 billion industry, begins with the touch of a jumpy brown bag. So I know, sir, that citrus greening is something which is negative. Right. So my main idea will be that it is talking about a disease, and the disease, therefore, the passage is a negatively oriented passage. The moment I know it's negatively oriented, sir, my answers, mysterious, benign, and ancient, they disappear. So I only have one answer, and that's devastating. And then I go and look for the lines which tell me which is devastating. So I see that 80% of Florida's trees are dying. So my answer is this. So I have done it in half a minute. So if I knew the main idea, there are a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions which I know that the author is main idea, shall we say, negative. I know that I need a negative answer. So my mind is made in that way. The main idea is something which, therefore, I recommend that you must have the main idea with you for whenever you read. So don't, right? If that is understood, that much is understood, I can then proceed further. So when I read a passage, first, I have to read it fast. Number two, I will never reread a passage. Number three, at the end of my reading the passage, I must have the main idea with me. And so This this whole thing about getting the main idea must not take you more than a minute and a half, right? More than a minute and a half. Should you not have the capability at the moment? So you need to develop this capability to be able to extract the main idea of any passage which is given to you in a minute and a half. It's not difficult. Let me explain how a main idea is extracted. I'll just tell you how see, you must use everything which is in your which is available to you to get the main idea. I'll show you. Give me a minute. Right. As I go, one second. Right. As I go further, just watch this passage. Look at this passage. Right. You look at this passage. See, he says the following passage is adopted, is taken from so and so, right? Is taken from so and it's Declaration of the Rights of Women, written in response to the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Many of us don't even read this. We think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So it matters a lot. Should you read this, you know that this guy or this author is guiding you on to the subject of this essay or this passage, that it is to do with the rights of women. Should you go down to the answer choices? Should you go down to the answer choices, right? And look here. What's the main point of the passage? You will only see two questions, two answers with rights. So these fellows can disappear. So I'm left with these two, right? I have an answer. I have an answer. I can show it to you another passage. Give me a second. I'm going to another one. Look here. When you look here, sir, you look here. What does he say? This fellow says, this fellow says, right, that new research in so and so, that dinosaurs, he says, were warm-blooded. It's new research suggests. It tells me that he's not pakka. He's not sure. He's not sure. But he's saying that new research gives you an idea, tries to say that dinosaurs were warm-blooded. And then he tells me something here that new research is added on to the debate. And then he gives me, in the end, he gives me some results. So I have a main idea. When I go looking for the main idea, right? So what do I do? What do I do? When I go and check, right? When I go and check, see, it can't be C and D because it's very narrow. When I go and look, I see it's an experiment to resolve a scientific controversy, which this guy says in the beginning, right? And the results come in the end, right? So what am I trying to say? I'm not saying that you don't read the passage and you only go and read the blurb on top. I'm not saying that. Let me suggest to you how to read a passage to get the main idea, and to read it the way I'm going to suggest to you. First and foremost, so you have to read a passage. You have to understand that whenever you write a passage on anything, you write on the state of Indian hockey or you write on the IPL. So you will write the main idea if you are writing on match fixing in the IPL. So your main idea will contain that in the introduction will contain the main idea. And then you will have 5 points that A happened, B happened, C happened. And in the conclusion, you will yet say it again. So people normally say that if you read the introduction and the conclusion, you should get the main idea. I also say it, sir. But it is not, again, it is a harsh answer. It is not entirely true. Because sometimes what happens, right? I may be a very good guy in the first para, second para, third para. I may do something bad in the fourth, fifth, and in the end, I'm a hopeless man. So from a good guy, I became a hopeless chap. And the SAT passages are argumentative. They're argumentative. They talk about a thing, one view, I said this, he said this. He said this, I said this, or vice versa, right? So to make sure that this main idea did not change en route, you need to read this passage, the introduction very, very carefully, the conclusion very, very carefully, and read the first and last lines of each paragraph, last sentences of each paragraph. That to ensure that this main idea did not change en route. Right. Now, let me say a few more things. Sir. See, you have to remember that all these sentences, now, sir, in the SAT are not important. They are not important. Some you have to read in detail, some can be skimmed. You must understand. Next, see, when you write on the state of Indian hockey or the whatever you want to talk about the IPL, write any article. You actually tell the guy that yeah, this has to be read. So how do you say it? It's of paramount importance. It is vital, right? of great significance is so and so. So he's actually telling you of great. If the author is saying, "Now it is significant, please read it. It is significant." If he's saying it's important, it is important. If he's saying it is vital, it is vital. Right now, so you read. So you understand. He is actually telling you that, sir, yeah, please read these things. So you read. Right. Then, when he changes tack, he makes me from a great guy to a bad guy. He'll use words like however, nevertheless, but, yet. He'll use contrast words of various kinds to shift the text, the context from good to bad, from A to B, from B to C. He'll shift it. He'll shift it, right? So you have to be careful of these words. You identify these words, you see these words, right? And then when you finish the subject, when you finish those 80 lines in the minute and a half that I recommend, right? You must very, very lucidly have the main idea with you. You must have the tone of the passage. Is the passage negative, positive, or neutral with you, right? And then we should go about answering the various questions, right? Now, there's an important thing which we recommend is that when you read the first and last sentences of each paragraph, right? What you must do is, as you read the paragraph, the first sentence and the last sentence, you annotate it. That this one talks about, shall we say, A. This talks about B. This talks about C. This talks about D. So when you finish, you have some kind of a map that this passage is about whether dinosaurs were warm blooded or cold blooded. In the first, he talks about what experiment he did. Then he talks about a second experiment. Then he talks about a third experiment, and then he gives me the results. Right? So you have a very, very right. So all right. I am not interested in what is the result. I am not interested in what is in each paragraph. No, not at all. It doesn't interest me. I also say to you that should you find a passage, it's on the Primerian extinction, something you never heard in your life, and you have a passage on that. Now, yeah, if you try to understand it, you will never understand it. So don't try to understand it also. If you find you can't understand it, so just leave it, sir. Read the introduction and the conclusion. If you can't get the main idea, there is a main idea question, leave that also, sir. But if you waste 15 minutes to read the Primerian extinction, what have you done? You are left at the end with hardly any time to do the last passage, right? You may leave two passages at the end because you were only trying to get the sense of this film. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. You have to read smartly, sir. You have to read smartly. When you read a question also, when you are reading for a question, right? When you are reading for a question, please make sure that if you can't find the answer in 1 minute, leave it, sir. If you do a question in 10 minutes, you don't get 80 marks for it. You get 8. So leave the question. Go somewhere, move forward. In fact, a very nice book that I read said that if you find a student, right, who is weak, his comprehension is weak. He cannot comprehend passages more than long passages. The book suggests that he should not read the passage. He should go and do questions, right, which can be done without reading, shall we say, or reading less, shall we say, a paired question. He goes and reads the 4 sets of lines, and he identifies an answer. He reads the fourth paragraph and identifies the function of the fourth paragraph. That is his capability. So he must play to his strengths, right? These are things which probably nobody will tell you, but I say this very candidly, right? That should you not understand the passage, don't try to understand it, so you'll waste time. You better go and go and see a question. It says answer what is the function of the third paragraph. Read the third paragraph, get the function, and carry on. There are a large number of questions which we can do, right, which do not require a detailed knowledge of the text. And a very large number of questions require you to get back into the text, read specific parts of the text, and answer the question. All right. See, I'm not going to take very much more time, because I can carry on saying I'll say the same things over and over again, right? I'll say the same things over and over and over again. I will share with you at the end of this talk one little thing on the various books that we recommend that you must read, that you can read actually, right? We always recommend that suppose you have when you this thing there when you start the SAT, there is a need for you to read fast. So if you have to read fast, you have to practice. It's like playing cricket. If you are playing cricket for your school, you have to practice. But should you have come to do the SAT, so reading is important. So you have to read fast. So how do you read fast? Right? We recommend that you pick up a book. You pick up a book. I don't recommend a physics book or a chemistry book or an economics book because those are textbooks. Boyle's law will not change and Charles' law will not change, right? And macroeconomics will not change in context. However, what Shakespeare writes or what Charles Dickens writes or what Sidney Sheldon writes, these things they carry on. And you have to comprehend how did this story move from one thing to the other. You have to comprehend. So we recommend that you read various types of books, but read books which you're comfortable with, and you must be able to read at least 20 pages in 20 minutes. And you must read on a daily basis. Till you get to a stage where your comprehension is the type that you're running scores of 44, 45 out of 52. That's the time you may lessen your reading, but till the time you take your exam, you must read, you must speed read to make sure that you are able to read those 20 pages in 20 minutes. That will give you the capability of reading those 80 lines in a minute and a half, which is what I wanted you to do, to extract the main idea. These are things which you need to do simultaneously with that. As you speed read your novels, etc., what must be done is to enhance your vocabulary, because vocabulary is and it enhances your comprehension, it enhances confidence, it enhances your ability to express yourself, and most vital, comprehension makes you understand better, right? So sorry, vocabulary makes you understand better. Now what you must do is that whenever you start your SAT preparation, every day when you read a book or you read homework, classwork, etc., you see 7 8 words you don't know, write them down in a book. Google the meaning, make a sentence. Should you not make the sentence properly, consult with your teacher. If you are preparing for 120 days, 5 words a day is 600 words. Should you remember 300? They do quantum jumps, quantum improvement in your confidence, in your expression, in your comprehension. Comprehension is what we are bothered about because comprehension translates into marks. Right. The last thing I must tell you is that when you read in the SAT, see the SAT doesn't pick up. See, the answer to every question is inside the text. The answer to every question is inside the text. There is no other way it's done, right? Because that SAT examiner has to justify that my answer is this and there is no other answer. So it has to be from the text. But he cannot pick up the answer verbatim and put it in the answer because it becomes very simple. Everyone get it right. So what does he do, sir? He reconstructs. If he tells you that a good Scrabble player is his abilities to play good Scrabble are attributable to his genetics, right? And the question is, what makes a good Scrabble player? One of the answers will be things that cannot be changed. It is for you to understand that genetics cannot be changed. The topic is on exercise. Exercise makes you agile, right? Now, if he picks up what's the benefit of doing exercise, exercise makes you agile. Everyone gets it right. He changed it. He will write that middle-aged people are more mobile, or middle-aged people are more mobility. He'll illustrate it. He'll say that a 78-year-old guy can do a somersault, right? That's also flex. That's also agility, sir. It's your ability to match these two things which is important. Like we have a question in our book which says the answer is that urbanization results in uniformity, right? So the question is, what does urbanization result in? He doesn't write it results in uniformity. He writes it results in a lack of variety. So these are things, as you read smartly for the SAT, you should be able to gather together, right? And answer the various questions, right? So what did I tell you? I told you first, don't read like you read in school. Number two, I said for whenever you read, I just want you to get the main idea. How do you get the main idea explained to you, right? And then you go to the questions, and as you do the questions, you come back and read those specific parts of the text in detail and get the answers, right? I told you about how reconstructions are done, how demonstrations are done. I said I don't want you to reread any passage, any paragraph or passage. I don't want you to reread. You read it when it translates into marks. Then your vocabulary, sir. And then I suggested that you need to speed read, right? There's very little else that I can tell you. If I tell you anything else, I'll just be repeating myself over and over again, right? I can now ask if there are any questions. I'm prepared to take.
That was a really superb session. Got to know, got much more clarity about reading part. Like there is always a sort of confusion. What exactly shall we read the questions first? Shall we read the passage first? If we are going opting for passage, then how much time it will take? So all the confusions have been clear. I guess the students are very much ready to prepare for the reading comprehension questions. Thank you once again, sir. I would like to take you through a few questions. Uh, I guess this has been answered already. So, sir, is Barron's reading book good?
Say again. I didn't understand. Say that again. I don't understand the question.
Sir, is Barron's reading book good?
Balanced reading.
Yes.
If you ask the guy what does he mean by balanced reading, I don't understand that.
The Barron's test. I guess there is a book.
Oh, Baron. Sir, see, sir. See, there is no good book, sir. There is no bad book, sir. Right? We read Erica Mills. Right? We read Erica Mills. I recommend the book. I recommend the book. See, Barron's wrote a book, or shall we say, Princeton wrote a book, right? Or the SAT wrote this thing. All books are good, sir. All books are good, right? All books are good. So what we have to understand is now, so I can read any book. I can read any book as long as I read for a purpose to get to a score, right, sir? If I read for a purpose, any book is good. I cannot say that Barron's is not a good book. I will not say that. It's a harsh answer. I don't like harsh answers, right? It's all right. Read it. No problem.
Okay. Sir, I am about to end the 10th grade. Is it too late to start SAT prep?
No, again, I didn't hear you again, sir. Please say that again.
The student is about to end the 10th grade. Is it too late to start SAT prep?
Is it too late to start SAT prep? So see, all these preparing for the SAT is actually preparing or even deciding to take the SAT is contingent on what he wants to do further in life, right? That is for something which he has to decide. If he's going to go and join something which is after class 11 or class 12, right, and he starts in class 10, class 10, it's a decision which he has to take himself, right? I do not say it's too early or too late. We have had kids who joined us in January and March, they've got a 1500 plus score,
Okay.
right? We have had children join us about 100 days before or maybe 80 days earlier, and they still have been able to get to a good score, right? So my saying whether it's in time or not in time, right? I need a whole lot of other data, like his, how he is at the moment, right? What are his final goals? Only then can I be able to tell you this. I have a student from class 9.
Mhm.
We had a student from class 9, right? Who took the SAT, did well. He's done well, but he was in class 9. So I cannot tell you whether it's 10th class is the day. His counselor will be a much better guy to advise him on that.
Okay. So the next question is, I didn't know much about US history, so still I'm facing in interpreting the passage and can't able to get the right answer.
Okay.
So need tips for that.
Right. See, sir, whoever's asked you this question, sir, see whether it's US history or whether it is science or whether it is social studies or whatever. Right, sir? See, the question on US history, the US history passage, right? US history passage will be on something to do with ancient US history. Now, it is important that as a student prepares for the SAT, he gets a little hang on the US history. What is US history all about? Why? I'm not saying that he must know US history. I'm not saying that he must know the genesis of the United States and what the United States is and what. I'm not saying that at all. See, but I'm saying there are strange things that happened in US history. There was a civil war, there was a confederation, there was slavery, there was a problem with women's rights, right? There was something called the Pilgrims, there was something called the Red Indians, right? There was a confederation, right? There were so many things, and there are landmarks in the US history. There's the Boston Tea Party, right? Etc. etc. There are so many landmarks. It makes sense, sir. It makes sense that the child or the student who is taking the SAT gets conversant with the landmarks of US history, right? And the important things which happened in US history. So, what happens when he sees a passage? He sees a passage on slavery, right? Now, many of us cannot believe yet that there was a time when in America there was a thing called slavery, right? When LeBron James would not be able to play basketball. You understand, sir? Right? That is the kind they won't believe that SRB there's something like or Tiger Woods can't play golf, right? There was a time when these things were not even dreamt of in America. So they must know we in our own teaching we have a class on US history. We have one of our very good faculty who runs a class on US history to ensure that the children are put through the timelines of US history, and she elaborates on various parts of the US history to make them conversant. So when our kids see a passage on slavery or the Confederation or women's rights or the temperance movement, etc., they are not at sea. They know that such a thing happened, and they're just looking now, is this fellow writing positively or negatively about slavery, and then we'll work on it. But knowing a little bit is important,
Okay, okay. So
right?
having a little hand is always helpful, but majorly it's about the passage what you read. So the next question is, it's a pretty much elaborated question. I would like
How
to.
you ask it, you don't worry, you ask, don't worry.
Uh, so can you please mention some books to improve our reading section apart from SAT books? Because what happen is I can't able to understand what the text is all about. So how I improve my ability of understanding passages in short time.
See, sir, I will if when you finish with me now, I will show you a slide on books, so that will stay in your recording. The kids can see it from there, right? They
That
can see it from there. Now, whoever's asking you this question, whoever's asking you this question, right? That how should he improve his comprehension? Sir, comprehend the whole exam is about comprehension,
hmm.
right? Now, so see, if I've not been able to, if this young fellow has not been able to translate comprehension into marks, obviously there's a problem, sir.
Hmm.
Obviously there's a problem. So he needs to read more, sir. He needs to read more, right? He needs to read more. He has to read books like we recommend to read a storybook which you like, right? A storybook which you like, or you can extract articles like we in our institute we have a whole team. We extract various social studies or science or history. We or even paired passages. We extract them. We join them together and we give our kids every week a set of five that you read. So what happens? We are not, we are sure that none of these will come in the exam. But by the time he goes to the exam, if he has been through 20 sets of five passages articles, he's so much more familiar with the kind of articles or the passages that come in the exam. So he's not at sea. So our aim is to make the guy on the D day, the day of the exam, he must be as comfortable physically and mentally to take the exam.
Right.
Mentally, because there's no passage he's not read. There's no kind of passage he's not read. Right? So when he sees a passage, he knows that ये तो मैंने पढ़ा हुआ है. I have read a passage of this kind. I have read it earlier. So that is what is the advantage. If you this fellow, he needs to study, read more. He needs to read more, and there are various sites on the internet, right? If he has the SAT preparatory book, if he has Barron's book or whichever book, on the first in the introduction they list out a number of sites, right? The New Atlantis, the New York Times, Scientific American, etc., from where he can go and take out articles and read, or read them online, no problem.
Okay, sir. That's great. And sir, within books, the question is, what kind of books would you recommend? Is it like a fiction or non-fiction?
Sir, I recommend fiction, sir. I recommend fiction. See, non-fiction, na, sir, is more like textbook. No, sir, textbook. So textbooks are easier. They go step by step, so it's easy to understand. See, it's like this. William Shakespeare wrote The Merchant of Venice, right? The Merchant of Venice. There are 5,000 interpretations of The Merchant of Venice. Because reading is temperamental, sir. I rewrite something, somebody understands it differently. You understood, sir? Right? So when I write something, somebody else understands it differently. So these are things we need to keep in mind, sir. These are the things that we need to keep in mind. I recommend fiction. You know why? For example, in fiction, you know what I should pick up, what is essential and what is not essential, which I need to develop that skill. For example, sir, you read a book by James Bond, sir, Goldfinger. Now, James Bond enters Goldfinger's room on the 80th floor of a hotel, right? He jumps into his room. Now, in 20 pages, they describe the room. They describe his bedroom, his kitchen, his bathroom. It's all made of gold, right? See, once you start reading, then you understand. You did not read these 20 pages to identify whether James Bond went into his room to see whether this made of gold or silver, right? You want to know in those 20 pages what did James Bond do. So on the sixth page, he put a listening device in his television. On the 20th, 16th page, you put it in his light. So you know that I'm looking for something and you find it. You're looking for something and I find it. So in those 20 pages, if you ask me to condense them, I will tell you that Sir James Bond jumped into Goldfinger's room and put three listening devices in his room. In these 20 pages, this is what happened. If he can do it for 20 pages, he can condense a 1.5 page article in a sentence. That is the skills which we need to develop after we read. So I recommend a non-fiction book. I
Okay.
recommend. I mean, see, I recommend non-fiction. I do not recommend. Sorry, I recommend fiction. Sorry, not non-fiction. Non-fiction is like a story, sir.
Hmm.
Is the non-fiction is step by step. So I can make out what's going to happen next,
Hmm.
right? Or just sometimes, sir, if a chap's comprehension is not good, if I give him a very difficult book to read, if I give him a very difficult book to read, he'll stop reading altogether, sir. If I give him a book which he doesn't understand at all, he'll stop reading.
Hmm. Right. Right.
Right.
So basically, you can opt for fiction. It can always maintain your interest levels to read, and once that particular phase has been crossed, then you can move to non-fiction.
Absolutely. Once your comprehension levels improve, go to anything, sir. Go to anything. Nope, not a problem.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question. What are your views on watching English movies to improve English vocabulary?
Yeah, yeah. This is bahana that I will watch English movies. If he wants to watch a movie, let him watch a movie. But sir, there is no substitute for reading, sir. There is
Okay.
no substitute. This is you can tell his pop. That's my teacher said ki picture dekhna अंग्रेजी ki, तो then you will be able to understand. Right? That's more of an excuse. I don't, sir. There is no shortcut to reading, sir. You
Hmm.
have to read pictures. I can listen to story. He says, my father tell me a story, then I'll understand. No, you have to read, sir. Let's repeat. Let's make it as similar to the exam. In the exam, no one's going to show him a movie. He's going to read. He's going to read and comprehend. Now, so let's get into that. No pictures, sir. Reading.
Okay, so by that, I guess all the questions have been answered. Thank you once again. I mean, the simplicity of your explanation is like too good. You have been answering all the questions in details. There are a few questions which have
You
arisen.
can ask me more questions, sir. I don't have a problem, sir. If you have any, if you,
Uh,
your time is yours. You have a question, I'm prepared to answer. No problem. Take your time, sir.
I guess you were going to share some slide regarding the
Give
book.
me 1 second, sir. Give me 1 second, sir. I will just do it, sir. Give me 1 second. Here, sir. These are short stories, sir. Right? I'm going up. These are books, sir. Right? There are a whole lot of things, sir. There are a whole lot. If we actually look at them, there is no type of novel that we have not included in this, sir. It's just that if you're interested, whatever you're interested in, sir, you read. Is it all right, sir? Or do you want me to keep it on for some time?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the students are taking screenshots. So
Shall I move up?
Yeah, if in case you could.
These are short stories, very nice little stories. And then because the passage with the things you get in your exam is a 1.5 page literature passage. So these are nice stories which they once they read, they understand, the confidence levels rise.
Yes, yes. Also, the level of difficulty is non-readers, so very good to someone to start with who are not much of an avid readers, who can get a start hook of reading, and then they can shift to good books. Good. So thank you once again, sir, to conduct this session and to suggest good tips about the reading part and suggesting some books. So everyone, I would like to ask you to stay tuned for the next session on ACT. So see you soon at the next session. Thank you.
You're done with. Thank you so much, sir. Very pleasure being with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, sir.